What's going on, everybody? I'm Jeff Wall, and I'm joined by my former coach, Chris Horodecki. Chris, how you doing, man? It's been a while.
What's up, Jeff? What's happening, man? Good to see you, man. Long time no see.
It's been a while. It's been a while. I figured this would be a good way to kind of catch up and everything, but also I feel like MMA fans haven't really heard from you for a pretty long time, and so I was just wondering, like, are you like? I mean, I guess I'll just start off. Are you basically retired, or what's the situation?
Yeah, right now, just my focus is on otherwise focusing more on coaching, focusing more on my career. Just occupied at the moment. I love the sport. I'm always involved in the sport. But definitely, yeah, just taking a different role right now.
That's cool. That's cool. So, I mean, obviously, like I said, like you coached me before, and you've been coaching tons of guys at the gym I've been seeing and stuff. But I want to talk a little bit about your start in MMA, right? Because when you came out, I remember I was just starting to watch the sport as well, and I remember, and I don't know if you would be able to kind of remember that in this way, but I just remember hearing Chris Horodecki's name as like one of the biggest prospects at MMA, and you were super young at the time, right? Kind of in a sense representing Canada in a lot of ways, right? I mean, we had a few great Canadian fighters at the time, but you were like the next one up. Did you ever kind of feel that pressure back in that day?
Man, it was you embrace the pressure, right? It's what people hope for and what they want to achieve, to be able to represent your country, to be able to represent your school, represent your team, because like that motivates you. That gives you that motivation, that drive to perform, that drive to train, and drive to achieve. Right. So I wouldn't call it a pressure. I definitely would call representing Canada, a privilege that not a lot of people get to experience on an international base. Representing your country, it's something that it's a very pride thing that you get to experience.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, that's honestly, I mean, obviously something I've never experienced, and we really haven't seen. I mean, we've seen some guys coming in and out, right? But I think not to quite the extent that when you guys were coming out. A lot of all the other Team Tompkins guys back in the day, but especially you. Um, but we've seen somebody recently, right? You know him, I know him. TJ Laramie. You've trained with him, and he just won on the Tuesday Night Contender series. It's been seeming like a long time coming because I've heard the name Laramie for a very long time. Obviously, a
Yep.
former TKO champion. Give the people kind of a sense of who TJ is and what makes him different from other guys that he's going to be competing with.
You know what? TJ's um, he's sick. He's a young prodigy as well. He's, I believe, only 22 years old. Like, he's super, super young. And he's breaking out now. He's got a contract with the UFC. Came out with a dominant performance at the UFC Contender Series. Dana White, like, the kid's a stud. You got to give him that. And at 22, he's had already, I believe, 12 to 15 fights. So he's got some experience. He's been battle tested. He's had some wins. He's had some losses. So he's been able to come back from adversity and regroup himself and rechannel himself, which that's a big thing to see, because when people take a loss and take that first loss, there's two ways that they can go, right? Like, they're either going to adapt and grow and make the adaptations in their fighting style and their training, what they have to do, or they're going to sink, right? And TJ did that. He corrected his mistakes. He's come back stronger. He's reached out. He's got a phenomenal coach in Reno Belcastro, who's got so much knowledge in the sport of mixed martial arts and so much passion that no other coaches right now, like, can compete with that. You know what I mean? Like, Reno's such a good guy, and he means well. Like, for him, he wants to see Reno wants to see TJ succeed. You know what I mean? And he does it not necessarily from a financial aspect. He wants him to succeed as a fighter and as a person, right? That's most important than anything. Um, he's got it down. From his fighting style, started off as a striker, started off as a kickboxer, has but I would say his strong suit is his wrestling. He's built like a little bulldog, little pit bull, and he can get you down, and he's got some phenomenal ground and pound. The thing I like most about TJ is that when he hits the mat, he's looking to win, right? He's not a lay and pray type of fighter. He's constantly striking. You know what I mean? And like, that's the difference when you see a fighter like GSP, you see fighter like Khabib, who are exactly the same thing. They would take people down, but they would dominate. It's the same thing with TJ. He's not pulling a Kamaru Usman style where he's just going to hold and fight for position. He's going to go out, he's going to take you down, and he's going to look for that win. And so much so in that last fight, he came out with victory where the guy basically got KO'd while he was still awake, and he gave up on the stool. So it's pretty good. I'm super excited for this kid. The kid's got all the potential in the world.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting to see somebody coming out of Canada, especially in Ontario, where since you guys, Stout, Hominick, and Jesse Ronson sort of more recently getting back into the UFC, getting his first win. There hasn't been a ton of guys coming out of here, and obviously there's been some legal issues in terms of legalizing MMA here, right? Another thing I wanted to touch on, though, in general, right? I mean, you've seen the sport for such a long time, and obviously we just talked about TJ being a big prospect, but is there somebody at Adrenaline right now, or that you've seen kind of, in the amateur ranks or even the pro ranks, that is somebody to look out for?
We have a few studs in the ranks for us. We got, from the amateur aspect, Gord Cunningham. So he just won another belt on the amateur circuit in Montreal, came out with a dominant win. The kid's got it. He's got the fighter mentality in him, right? And he can turn it on. And that's good to see. That's really, really, you want to see that. You want to see them to have that killer instinct, and Gord's got it. So he's a stud. My longtime student, Tommy Theocharis, he's traveling as well. He's going to be back making his mark in the pro ranks once the sport gets back on its feet, back moving. Right now, it's pretty much the upper echelon is that, they got the Bellator, the UFC, you know what I mean? The top shows, that's where you're going to be fighting right now. So that the up and coming shows that people are going to struggle, right? Then some of the fighters are going to struggle. Once the opportunity is there for him, he's going to come out. He's going to succeed. My good student that I have so much passion for this kid, Mikey Adams. So he's a up and coming amateur guy. He's got everything, man. He's a good kid. He's got it. Hits like a truck. He's athletic. He's just on the come up right now. He's just climbing the amateur ranks. He'll be making his MMA debut very, very soon. So don't forget that name, Mikey Adams. And lastly, I would say Matt Bednarek, Polish kid, and he's Jesse Ronson's main training partner. So he takes beatings on the daily from the body snatcher, and he comes back for more. He's got nothing but heart, determination. He's strong as a beast. I see him in the weight room. I see the numbers that he picks up, and I'm very, very impressed. But I would definitely say his durability, training with high-level fighters, and still coming back for more, this kid's going to be good.
Yeah, I think durability, too, is one thing that a lot of people underrate, just how tough everybody is, not just physically, but mentally in the sport to keep coming back in after those tough, long training, even weeks of training, not just days, the rounds of sparring, getting your butt kicked pretty much 24/7, right? So that's definitely a super important thing. You talked about the mentality is really, really important. Another thing I wanted to mention too is obviously, like I said, you've been doing this for a while and you've been training people for a while. So now you've kind of seen, I guess, both sides of this. Would you say, is there something in MMA that you kind of want to see more of, whether it's from a technical aspect or maybe even just like a rules aspect, like rule changes or something?
From a technical aspect in MMA, I think the gloves probably, adapting the gloves. What happens too often is the eye pokes in MMA, and you're seeing that in fighting styles, and I think like the style of the glove with its fingers basically start. If you've ever put on an MMA glove, normally if you put it on brand new fresh glove for competition, it's straight, it's like a brick, and then we're always rolling the glove up before the match, so you lock it into that fist position, having that slight angle. And I think the UFC's made that adaptation already with slightly curved gloves. But even on the amateur ranks, to be able to make that change and be able to have that, to avoid that eye poke, because you have a natural tendency. People like to stay on the outside paw, parry, right? They like to reach like this, and they like to judge their distance with their hands and their fingers. If you have that natural curl in your hand, it's going to be much more easier, much more safe. You're going to see a lot more fights not get held up by an eye poke, right? And how often do we see, that eye poke is what set the tone, because from there I couldn't see it and I kept fighting and then I got knocked out, or right. So it would leave a lot of questions not left without understanding. You know what I mean? Like people wouldn't be like, oh, what would have been, right? No, protect the fighter, protect the hands, protect the eyes, keep everybody safe.
I think that's a really good point too. I mean, we've seen, like, look at Daniel Cormier. I mean, hopefully he's okay, right? And Stipe had to have surgery on his eye. And then you look at Michael Bisping had to completely take his whole entire eye out. And we don't need to see that anymore. I think it's been too long for that sort of change. Do you think, though, is there anything significant? Like, I mean, you always hear the 10-point must system is something, but I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I think personally for me, I would just tweak it where, like, let's say the round winner gets 10 and then, the loser gets, 1 to 9, right? Because I think almost every fight, it's always scored 10-9 per round. And it's like, well, that doesn't really show how one-sided that round is, right? Do you think that there's something in terms of the officiating that could change a little bit, or?
You could judge the fight as a whole. Like, that's definitely something. I think, but from a judging aspect, where we are in a round-based system, right? Otherwise, if you're just going to do that, you may as well give away with the rounds and just make it a 20-minute fight or a 10-minute fight, and then have at it. There's an option of having, like, open scorecards. That's something that people can. I know Invicta does that. So, right, like they make the audience aware, and then the fighter has the option to know whether or not they want to know the score from their coach. So that's something that can change the perspective of the fight. I don't think it's bad, though, to be honest. I think we've done it well, and I think that realistically, people know if you win the round, you pretty much have a good idea. It is all perspective. I'm gonna favor more what I like. You know what I mean? I'm gonna like the kickboxers. I'm gonna like the heavy submissions right now. But it's MMA. Everybody should know everything, but it's perspective. We all gonna favoritize. That's it. Hometown advantage. God, tell me if that's not true. It still happens. It still occurs. You know what I mean? Even though, okay, yeah, the big show, yeah, they're bringing referees from neutral grounds coming to one spot. There shouldn't be any favoritism, but it always exists, and there always will be. So,
yeah, I think that's something that for sure is going to be inevitable. And, like, even refs, right? Some refs are going to be a lot more, lenient and let things go and let fighters take a pretty bad beating, and others are going to step in, like, right away as soon as they see it.
It's all perspective, right? It's all perspective, and you're going to say, listen, I know him, and I know how he fights. I know he would be fine. Okay, but if he's taking 50 unanswered shots, like, there's so many fights that are cringeworthy where the guy's getting his head punched into the mat and the ref's not stopping and everyone's screaming, and you look at Reddit and everybody's putting up crazy posts. So it's all perspective, man. And the thing is, we're all human. The problem is, I don't want to be a referee. You got someone's paycheck in your hands. You got someone's health and well-being in your hands. So, but that's why they get paid the big bucks, and that's why they take a special type of person to be a referee.
No, for sure. There's tons of responsibility, and it's almost never you're almost never going to win, I think, as a ref, for sure. But I want to finish it off, though, Chris. I mean, we talked a little bit about you, but you had a pretty great career, to be honest with you. I mean, I think anybody that can get up to the pros, I mean, I have absolute utmost respect for. But as far as, like, your pro career and stepping away when you did, how are you going to look back on it? Is there, like, a particular memory or something that you're going to look back on and say, like, that was a great career?
You know what? I would just say that people would respect my fighting style, would respect an exciting style, and left it all in the ring. I'll go out unconscious, but when people would know when I'll get signed to a fight, they'd expect an exciting fight.
Yeah, I think that's really, I think what a lot of us, if we do go into fighting, that's a lot of what we tend to hope for. Chris, I want to thank you so much for coming on and taking the time out of your day to talk with us, and we'll talk to you soon.
My pleasure, Jeff. You look great, man. Good to see you. Hope all is well. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.